Welcome to this peaceful space. Find a comfortable position, one where your body can fully relax. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. You can simply rest, simply listen, simply be. Tonight's journey is about something so familiar that you might never have stopped to truly notice it. Something you've used every single day since childhood, yet perhaps never fully appreciated. Tonight, we're going to explore the alphabet, but not as you've known it before. Take a deep breath in and slowly release it. Feel your shoulders drop, feel tension beginning to melt away. The alphabet surrounds you every moment of your waking life, on signs and screens, in books and messages, in everything written and typed. But tonight, we'll see it differently. We'll discover why this simple system of symbols has such a calming, almost meditative quality. There's something deeply soothing about the alphabet. Perhaps it's the order A, B, C, D, repeating with perfect predictability. Perhaps it's the familiarity, shapes you've known since childhood, never changing, always reliable. Or perhaps it's something deeper, something about how these letters connect us across time and space, linking mind to mind, past to present. Let your breathing settle into a natural rhythm. Notice how, when you read, your mind becomes quiet in a particular way. The chatter of thoughts settles. You enter a different state of consciousness, focused yet relaxed. This is what the alphabet enables, a doorway into quieter states of mind. Tonight, you'll discover that the alphabet isn't just a tool for communication. It's a story of human ingenuity spanning thousands of years. It's a meditation on patterns and shapes. It's a connection to countless generations who came before you, all the way back to ancient traders sailing Mediterranean waters, to scribes pressing wedges into soft clay, to the very first person who realized that sounds could be captured in marks. The facts you'll hear tonight aren't meant to be remembered. They're not for a test or for memorization. They're simply gentle waves of information, washing over your relaxing mind, carrying you deeper into rest. Some facts will catch your attention. Others will flow past unnoticed. Both experiences are perfect. There's a reason bedtime stories have existed throughout human history. The human mind finds comfort in narrative, in the gentle unfolding of information, in following a thread from beginning to end. Tonight's story happens to be true, a story of how humanity learned to capture thought itself, to preserve words beyond the moment of speaking. Feel your body becoming heavier now, sinking into whatever surface supports you. Your eyes may be closed, or closing now. The alphabet we'll explore together is both ancient and modern, both simple and infinitely complex. 26 letters, but within them, every English word that has ever been written, every thought that has ever been captured on paper or screen. Think about how remarkable this is. The same letters that spell your name also spelled Shakespeare's words. The same alphabet that appears on your phone screen also appeared in medieval manuscripts, carefully illuminated by monks. The letters haven't changed, but they've traveled through centuries, serving billions of people across vast distances of time and space. This continuity is part of what makes the alphabet so calming. In a world of constant change, the alphabet remains stable. A is still A, B is still B. The shapes you learned as a child are the shapes your grandchildren will learn. There's comfort in this permanence, this reliability. As we begin this journey together, know that there's no wrong way to experience it. You might listen attentively for a while and then drift off to sleep. That's perfect. You might hear the entire story in a dreamy, half-awake state. That's perfect too. You might fall asleep in the first few minutes and let the words continue as a gentle background, equally perfect. The alphabet asks nothing of you tonight except that you rest. It will continue its quiet work whether you're awake or asleep, conscious or dreaming. For thousands of years, it has served humanity. Tonight, it serves you simply by being present, by providing a gentle current of thought to carry you into deep, restorative sleep. Let go of your day now. Let go of tomorrow's concerns. This moment, this space, is only for rest. The alphabet will tell its story, will reveal its secrets, will unfold its long history, and you need only receive whatever you receive. Let go of whatever you let go of. Your breathing is slower now. Your thoughts are becoming quieter. The alphabet is ready to begin its ancient tale, starting from the very dawn of writing, from the first moment a human being looked at marks on clay or stone and understood that these marks could speak, could remember, could carry meaning across time. So settle deeper into comfort. Allow yourself to be carried on this journey. And know that wherever you are when you wake, whether you've heard every word or drifted away in the first minutes, you will have given yourself exactly the rest you needed. The story begins now. The alphabet waits to welcome you home to the realm of letters, to the quiet space where symbols and meaning meet, where human ingenuity and daily necessity created something miraculous. Welcome to the journey of letters. Welcome to this exploration of the alphabet. Welcome to rest. Let us begin. Close your eyes and let your breathing slow. Tonight, we're going on a journey through time, following the gentle evolution of something so familiar yet so extraordinary, the alphabet. These symbols that surround us every day carry within them thousands of years of human ingenuity, and there's something deeply calming about tracing their path through history. Our story begins not with letters, but with pictures. Imagine yourself in ancient Mesopotamia, around 3200 BCE, where the first writing system emerged like the first light of dawn. The Sumerians developed cuneiform, pressing wedge-shaped marks into soft clay tablets. These weren't letters yet, but pictographs, simple drawings that represented whole words or ideas. A drawing of a foot meant to walk or to stand. The human mind was taking its first steps toward capturing thought itself, preserving it beyond the moment of speech. There's something soothing about this beginning, isn't it? The idea that writing started as pictures. It mirrors how we all learn, first seeing images, then gradually abstracting them into symbols. This natural progression from concrete to abstract is why the alphabet feels so intuitive to our brains once we learn it. We're following an ancient pathway carved by countless generations before us. Now let our journey drift southward, down to Egypt, where along the banks of the Nile, another writing system was flourishing. The Egyptian hieroglyphs, emerging around 3100 BCE, were both beautiful and complex. Some symbols represented whole words, while others represented sounds. This was a crucial development, the realization that you could break spoken words into smaller sound units. Imagine the cognitive leap this required. Someone, somewhere, noticed that different words shared similar sounds, and those sounds could be represented by the same symbol. The Egyptians used about 24 symbols to represent consonant sounds, and buried within their elaborate system of thousands of hieroglyphs was essentially an alphabet waiting to be discovered. But they never fully separated it out. They kept their complex system, perhaps because there was beauty in the complexity, or perhaps because tradition held them to the old ways. The priests who could read and write held tremendous power, and simplifying the system might have democratized that knowledge in ways they didn't want. Let your mind rest on this idea for a moment, how knowledge, locked in complex symbols, was held by the few. The alphabet story is partly a story of knowledge becoming accessible, of barriers coming down as slowly as sunset fades to night. Around 1850 BCE, in the Sinai Peninsula, something remarkable happened. Semitic-speaking workers, likely employed in Egyptian turquoise mines, began adapting Egyptian hieroglyphs to write their own language. This Proto-Sinaitic script is considered one of the earliest alphabetic systems. These workers took Egyptian symbols but used them purely for their sound values, not their meaning. The Egyptian hieroglyph for house, which looked like a simple floor plan and was pronounced PR in Egyptian, became the symbol for the B sound in Semitic languages, because house was bait in their tongue. Can you feel the genius in this simplicity? They looked at the first sound of their word for an object and let that symbol represent just that sound. This is called the acrophonic principle, and it's why many of our letter names today still echo these ancient words. Our letter A descends from the Semitic word aleph, meaning ox. B comes from Beth, meaning house. This method, taking a picture, remembering the word it represented, and using it to write just the first sound of that word, created an elegant bridge between two worlds, the concrete world of images and the abstract world of pure sound. Now let the centuries wash over you like gentle waves. We move forward to around 1200 BCE, to the Phoenician civilization along the Mediterranean coast, in the lands of modern-day Lebanon and Syria. The Phoenicians were traders and sailors, their ships cutting through blue waters, connecting distant ports. They needed a practical, efficient writing system for commerce, something faster than hieroglyphs, easier to learn than cuneiform. The Phoenicians refined the alphabetic principle into a system of 22 consonant letters. No vowels, just consonants. If you've ever seen Hebrew or Arabic, you've seen descendants of this system where vowels can be implied or added as small marks. The Phoenician alphabet was perfectly suited to their Semitic language, where consonants carry most of the meaning and vowels can be deduced from context. There's a meditation here on efficiency and purpose. The alphabet wasn't created by philosophers in isolation but by practical people solving real problems. It emerged from necessity, the need to record trades, to send messages across distances, to remember debts and agreements. Sometimes the most elegant solutions come not from abstract contemplation but from the pressure of daily life. The Phoenician letters had names that reflected their pictographic origins, even though the letters themselves had become simplified and abstract. Aleph for ox. Imagine that the letter A, turned upside down, still shows the head of an ox with its two horns pointing downward. Beth for house, Gimel for camel, Daleth for door. Each letter carried within it the ghost of an ancient image. As you relax deeper, picture those Phoenician ships sailing westward, carrying not just goods but ideas, carrying the alphabet like seeds across the waters to distant shores. Around 800 BCE, the Greeks encountered this Phoenician alphabet through trade and colonization. The Greeks adopted it, but they made a revolutionary change, one that would echo through all of Western civilization. The Semitic languages of the Phoenicians, like Hebrew and Arabic, have a different structure than Greek. Greek needed vowels to be explicitly written, not just implied. So the Greeks took some of the Phoenician consonant letters, sounds that didn't exist in Greek, and repurposed them as vowels. The Phoenician aleph, a glottal stop, a sound made in the throat, became alpha, a pure vowel sound. A, he, a breathy consonant, became epsilon, e. This was transformative. For the first time, an alphabet could precisely capture both consonants and vowels, allowing any speaker of Greek to read aloud a text exactly as intended. Feel the significance of this development. The addition of vowels made reading more accessible. You didn't need to rely as heavily on already knowing the language or guessing the pronunciation. A child learning to read, a foreigner learning Greek, all could now decode written words more easily. The alphabet was becoming more democratic, more learnable. The Greeks also gave us the word alphabet itself, alpha and beta, the first two letters, combined. They standardized the direction of writing, settling on left to right, though early Greek writing often went boustrophodon, like an ox plowing a field, alternating direction with each line. Left to right, then right to left, then left to right again. Eventually, the left-to-right direction became standard in Greek, creating the flow we still follow today in most Western languages. Imagine ancient Greek scribes working by lamplight, their letters becoming more refined, more standardized with each generation. The alphabet was spreading across the Greek city-states, each with slight variations, until the Ionic alphabet of Miletus was adopted officially by Athens in 403 BCE. This standardization itself is soothing. The idea that chaos gradually settles into order, that variations gradually find harmony. Now let us drift westward again, to the Italian peninsula, where the Etruscans encountered the Greek alphabet around the 8th century BCE. The Etruscans, a mysterious civilization whose language we still don't fully understand, adapted the Greek letters to their own needs. And then, from the Etruscans, the Romans received the alphabet. The Roman alphabet, which we use today, was derived from the Etruscan adaptation of the Greek letters around the 7th century BCE. The Romans modified it further, adding and removing letters as their language evolved. Early Latin had only 21 letters. There was no J, no U, no W. The letter I served for both the vowel sound and the consonant sound we now associate with J. The letter V served for both the V consonant and the U vowel. Rest here for a moment on the idea that our alphabet wasn't always complete, wasn't always as we know it. It grew and adapted like a living thing, responding to the needs of those who used it. As the Roman Empire expanded, so did the Latin alphabet, spreading across Europe, North Africa, and the Near East. It was carried by soldiers, merchants, and officials, planted in every corner of the empire. Even after Rome fell in 476 CE, its alphabet remained, preserved and propagated by the Christian Church. Medieval monks and scriptoriums across Europe spent their days copying manuscripts, letter by letter. The repetitive motion of their work, dipping pen in ink, forming each character with careful precision, was itself a form of meditation. The act of writing became a sacred practice. In the silence of monastic libraries, where the only sounds were the scratch of quill on parchment and the whisper of turning pages, the alphabet was not just preserved but beautified. The monks developed different styles of script. Uncials, majuscule letters with rounded forms. Half uncials, which began to show the emergence of lowercase letters. By the time of Charlemagne in the late 8th century, Carolingian minuscule had developed a clear, standardized script that included both uppercase and lowercase letters in essentially the forms we recognize today. This is when our alphabet truly took the shape that feels familiar to you now. The lowercase a that curves like a gentle wave, the tall staff of the lowercase b, the distinctive two-story G. These forms were refined by countless hands, each scribe adding their small touch to the river of tradition. There's deep comfort in this continuity, isn't there? When you write a letter G, you're forming the same essential shape that monks were forming over 1,000 years ago. You're part of an unbroken chain reaching back through the centuries. The development of lowercase letters was more than aesthetic. It made reading faster and easier. Texts written entirely in uppercase, with no spaces between words, no punctuation, were difficult to parse. The eye couldn't as easily distinguish word boundaries or skip ahead to find information. Lowercase letters, with their varying heights and distinctive shapes, created visual rhythm and texture on the page. They made reading a smoother, more natural process. Think about how your brain processes text. The overall shape of a word, its silhouette, is recognized almost instantly. The word elephant has a distinctive shape with tall letters and letters that descend below the line. This wouldn't be true if it were written in all capitals, elephant. The shape would be a simple rectangle. Lowercase letters give each word a unique profile, and your brain uses this for rapid recognition. This is why the alphabet in its current form is actually restful to your mind. It's optimized for the way your visual system works. As you settle deeper into relaxation, consider the profound impact of one more development: movable type. In 1440, Johannes Gutenberg in Mainz, Germany, perfected the mechanical printing press with movable metal type. This wasn't just a technical achievement, it was a revolution in human consciousness. Before Gutenberg, books were rare and expensive, copied by hand one at a time. After Gutenberg, texts could be reproduced quickly and cheaply. The alphabet, which had always been a tool for the few, suddenly became a tool for the many. Knowledge poured out from the printing houses like water from a broken dam. The shapes of our letters were now being standardized even further. Typeface designers created fonts, families of letters with consistent proportions and style. Garamond, Caslin, Baskerville, each designer's name became attached to their particular vision of the alphabet's form. These typefaces were crafted for legibility, for beauty, and for the specific mechanical requirements of the printing press. There's something deeply satisfying about well-designed letters. The human eye finds pleasure in proportion, in balance, in the relationship between thick and thin strokes. This is why typography can be its own form of art. Each letter exists in relationship to every other letter, and a good typeface maintains harmony across the entire alphabet. Let your mind rest on the letter O. In your imagination, see it as a perfect circle, or perhaps a gentle oval. This simple closed curve is one of the most ancient and universal shapes. It appears in Phoenician, in Greek, in Latin, unchanged in its essential form. The O is completion, wholeness, the shape of the sun and the moon. Every alphabet with European origins contains this letter, this perfect curve. Now think of the letter S, with its serpentine path, neither straight nor circular but flowing. The S requires careful balance in its design. Too much curve and it becomes unstable, too little and it loses its character. Ancient scribes found the ideal proportions through trial and error, through thousands of hours of practice, and that ideal was passed down through the generations. The alphabet reached a new phase of stability in the modern era. By the 17th and 18th centuries, spelling began to be standardized through dictionaries and grammar books. Before this, people spelled words however they sounded, and even the same person might spell their own name different ways. William Shakespeare's own signature appears in several different spellings and surviving documents. Standardization brought with it both gains and losses. We gained the ability to communicate clearly across distances and between different regions. A word would mean the same thing, spelled the same way, whether written in London or Edinburgh or Boston. But we lost some of the playful flexibility of earlier ages, when language was more fluid, more personal. Even so, the alphabet continued to evolve in subtle ways. New letters emerged to fill specific needs. The letter J, which had been just a variant of I, became recognized as a separate letter by the 17th century. The letter W, originally written as two V's or used side by side, hence W, became a letter in its own right. English, borrowing from French, had need of this sound. Some languages that adopted the Latin alphabet added their own special characters. German has the letter S set, called an esset or sharp S. The Scandinavian languages have A, and O. Spanish has N. Each represents a sound specific to that language, a sound that the original Latin alphabet couldn't capture. The alphabet, even in its maturity, remained flexible, adaptable. As you breathe slowly in and out, consider how the alphabet adapts to the human voice. Every language has its own unique sounds, its own phonemes, and the alphabet bends to accommodate them. Sometimes one letter represents different sounds in different contexts. Sometimes multiple letters combine to represent a single sound. The relationship between spelling and sound in English is famously complex, a product of its history, borrowing from Latin, French, Old Norse, and other languages. This complexity, rather than being a flaw, is a record of connection. English spelling preserves echoes of historical pronunciations, of words borrowed from other tongues, of the many peoples and cultures that have contributed to the language. When you see the word night, with its silent K and silent GH, you're seeing a fossil, a remnant of how that word was pronounced in Middle English. The spelling has remained stable even as the pronunciation shifted over centuries. There's a deep lesson here about stability and change. The written word provides continuity even as the spoken word evolves. If English spelling had always changed to match pronunciation, we would lose our connection to Shakespeare, to Chaucer, to all the writers of the past. The alphabet serves as a bridge across time. In the 20th century, the alphabet encountered new media, the typewriter, the computer keyboard, digital fonts. Each new technology required adaptations. Early typewriters often combined the numeral 1 and the letter I, since they looked similar enough. Computer character encoding standards like ASCII had to assign a number to each letter, each punctuation mark, standardizing the alphabet in yet another dimension. Digital fonts brought unprecedented flexibility. A typeface designer could now create subtle variations with mathematical precision, adjusting the spacing between letters, the weight of strokes, the height of ascenders and descenders. The alphabet could be optimized for screen reading, which required different proportions than print reading. Sans serif fonts like Arial and Helvetica became standard for digital displays because their clean lines rendered more clearly on low-resolution screens. Yet even with all this change, the basic forms remained. The letter A is still recognizable across every typeface, every style, every variation. This stability is part of what makes the alphabet cognitively efficient. You learn these 26 shapes as a child, and those same shapes serve you for your entire life. Unlike logographic systems, where thousands of characters must be memorized, the alphabet requires you to learn only a small set of symbols that can be combined infinitely. This parsimony, achieving so much with so little, is elegant and restful to the mind. 26 letters can express every English word, every thought, every story. From Shakespeare's sonnets to a grocery list, the same simple toolkit serves all purposes. Let your thoughts drift now to the sound of the alphabet itself. When you learn the alphabet song as a child, you are learning more than letter names. You are learning rhythm, pattern, sequence. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The melody made memorization effortless, embedding the alphabet's order deep in your memory. Even now, when you need to recall whether M comes before N, you might find yourself mentally singing that childhood song. This musical quality of the alphabet reveals something important. Learning works best when it's pleasurable, when it engages multiple senses, when it creates emotional connections. The alphabet has survived because it was always more than just a utilitarian tool. It was something beautiful, something worth preserving and perfecting. Consider the aesthetic pleasure of calligraphy, where letters become art. In Islamic cultures, where representational art was often restricted, calligraphy elevated the Arabic alphabet to supreme artistic heights. Swooping curves, intricate ligatures, letters flowing into one another like water, this was a form of worship, a way of honoring sacred texts through beautiful writing. In East Asia, calligraphy had a similar status. Though Chinese and Japanese used logographic writing systems rather than alphabets, the principle was the same. The act of writing could be meditation, art, spiritual practice all at once. The writer's mood, their state of mind, was believed to show in their brushstrokes. This reverence for the written word exists in Western traditions too. Medieval illuminated manuscripts decorated letters with gold leaf, intricate patterns, tiny paintings. The first letter of a chapter might be enlarged and embellished, transforming it into a miniature work of art. These illuminated initials weren't just decorative, they were signals, helping readers navigate the text, marking important beginnings. Even today, we retain some of this reverence. A beautifully handwritten note carries more weight than a typed message. A book bound in leather, printed on quality paper with a thoughtfully chosen typeface, feels more valuable than the same text on a computer screen. We respond to the physical presence of letters, their weight and texture. As your breathing slows and your body relaxes, think about the letters that surround you in daily life. Street signs and billboards, book spines and food labels, text messages and emails. The alphabet is so ubiquitous that you rarely think about it consciously. Yet it's always there, working quietly in the background, conveying information, telling stories, connecting you to others. This invisibility is a sign of success. The best tools are those you don't have to think about. The alphabet has become so natural, so intuitive, that using it is like breathing. You don't consciously decide how to form each letter when you write. You don't sound out every letter when you read. The processes have become automatic, freeing your conscious mind for higher-level thinking. This automation is why reading can be so relaxing. Once the mechanics of decoding letters into words becomes effortless, reading becomes a direct conduit to meaning, to story, to other minds. You can lose yourself in a book because you're not struggling with the alphabet itself, you're flowing through it, almost unaware of the medium. The alphabet's efficiency has cognitive benefits beyond reading. Learning to write an alphabetic script, research suggests, may help develop fine motor control and strengthen connections between visual and motor areas of the brain. The act of forming letters by hand engages multiple neural pathways, reinforcing learning and memory. This is why writing by hand, even in our digital age, remains valuable. When you take notes by hand, you're more likely to remember them than if you type them. The physical act of writing engages your brain differently, more deeply. Each letter formed is a small muscular memory, connecting abstract meaning to physical sensation. Let yourself feel the motion of writing in your imagination. The pen moving across paper, the slight resistance of the surface, the rhythm of loops and lines. Writing can be its own form of meditation, each word appearing one letter at a time, thoughts flowing from mind to hand to page. The alphabet has also shaped human cognition in broader ways. Some scholars argue that alphabetic literacy changed how people thought, moving societies from oral cultures based on memory and performance toward literate cultures based on documentation and analysis. When knowledge doesn't have to be memorized, it can become more complex, more detailed. You can refer back to earlier passages, compare different texts, build arguments across pages and chapters. This isn't to say that oral cultures were inferior. They developed their own sophisticated ways of preserving and transmitting knowledge through poetry, song, and storytelling. But alphabetic writing added a new dimension, a new way of engaging with ideas. The alphabet also enabled the development of abstract thought. When you can write down a thought and examine it, critique it, revise it, you can refine ideas in ways that are difficult to do purely mentally. Philosophy, science, law, all these domains flourished in alphabetic cultures partly because writing allowed for careful analysis and building of complex arguments. Yet the alphabet never entirely replaced orality. We still tell stories, still sing songs, still teach through speaking. The alphabet supplemented human communication rather than supplanting earlier forms. This layering, written language on top of spoken language, creates richness and flexibility. Think now about how children learn the alphabet. First, they learn to recognize letters, to distinguish B from D, P from Q. These similar shapes can be confusing at first because the differences are subtle, just a question of orientation. The brain must learn to pay attention to these spatial details. Then children learn letter sounds, connecting visual symbols to phonemes. This mapping of sight to sound is arbitrary. There's no inherent reason why the shape A should represent the sound A. Yet children learn these connections readily, especially when the learning is playful, accompanied by songs, games, and stories. Finally, children learn to combine letters into words, to recognize patterns, to decode meaning. This is when reading truly begins, when the alphabet stops being a series of isolated symbols and becomes a transparent window into language, into thought. There's something hopeful about this progression. Every literate person went through it, and every new generation will go through it again. The alphabet renews itself with each child who learns it, making it immortal in a way that individual books or even languages are not. Some languages that once used other writing systems have adopted the Latin alphabet. Turkish, for example, used Arabic script until 1928, when Mustafa Kemal Ataturk instituted reforms that switched Turkey to the Latin alphabet. Vietnamese used Chinese characters and later a modified Chinese system called Chunam, but in the 17th century, Portuguese missionaries developed the current Latin-based writing system, which became standardized in the 20th century. These transitions weren't always smooth. Changing a writing system means retraining an entire population, reprinting books, changing signage. Yet nations undertook these massive efforts because the Latin alphabet offered advantages. It was simpler to learn, easier to typeset and print, and facilitated international communication. The global spread of English in the 20th and 21st centuries has made the Latin alphabet the most widely used writing system in the world. Even in countries that use other primary scripts, the Latin alphabet appears on signs, in brand names, in technological contexts. It has become a kind of universal auxiliary script. This universality has interesting effects. When people around the world use the same letters, even if for different languages, there's a subtle connection created. A Japanese person learning English, a Swahili speaker learning French, an Arabic speaker learning Spanish, all are encountering the same familiar letter shapes, creating common ground across vast linguistic differences. As you relax further, imagine the alphabet as a river, flowing through time. It began as small tributaries, Phoenician, Greek, Etruscan, joining and merging, fed by countless smaller streams of influence and adaptation. By the time it reached us, it had become a mighty river, broad and deep, carrying the commerce and culture of civilizations. And like a river, it continues to flow, continues to change, even though change is now subtle and slow. New fonts are designed every year. Typographers experiment with proportions and styles. Children develop their own handwriting, each slightly different, adding tiny variations to the stream. The letters themselves, these 26 symbols, are now so stable, so established, that they seem eternal. But they're not. They're living things, adapted by human hands for human purposes. They exist because we need them, because we breathe life into them every time we write, every time we read. Consider the alphabet's relationship to memory. When you write something down, you externalize memory, putting it somewhere safe outside your mind. This frees your mental resources for other tasks. You don't have to remember everything because the alphabet remembers for you. Yet the alphabet also enhances memory in other ways. The act of writing something helps you remember it. Reading and rereading deepens understanding. The letters serve as anchors for meaning, holding ideas stable so you can return to them. There's a comfort in this reliability. A thought written down in the morning will say the same thing in the evening. A book read in childhood can be read again in old age, the words unchanged even as you have changed. The alphabet provides continuity across the chaos of life. Think about love letters, saved in a shoebox. Grocery lists in familiar handwriting. A diary filled with private thoughts. Birthday cards signed by family members. Each instance of written language is mundane, yet each also carries emotional weight. The alphabet is the medium through which we preserve moments, relationships, selves. In times of loss, written words become precious. A last letter from someone who has died. An inscription in a book they gave you. Their handwriting, which you'll never see formed by their hand again, but which remains on the page. The alphabet outlasts us, carrying forward the traces of our existence. This permanence is part of what makes writing powerful. Speech disappears into air the moment it's uttered. Writing remains. Stone inscriptions from ancient Rome are still readable today, 2,000 years later. The alphabet has given us victory over time, at least in small ways. Yet there's also beauty in the alphabet's impermanence in other contexts. Chalk on a sidewalk, washed away by rain. Notes written in sand at the beach. Steam on a mirror. These temporary alphabets remind us that not everything needs to last forever. Sometimes communication is meant just for the moment. As your mind drifts into sleep, let's return to where we began, to the idea that the alphabet developed from pictures. From ox to A, from house to B, from camel to C. Each letter contains within it a hidden history, a story of transformation from concrete image to abstract sound. This journey from image to symbol parallels the journey each of us makes as we grow. Children think in concrete terms, in specific examples. Adults can handle abstraction, can work with symbols that represent categories, ideas, relationships. The alphabet made this same journey over thousands of years. And just as a child never entirely loses the ability to think in images, the alphabet never entirely lost its pictographic origins. We can still see the ox horns in the letter A if we turn it upside down. We can trace the evolution of each letter through its historical forms, watching as stylization and abstraction slowly transformed pictures into the clean lines we know today. There's poetry in this. The alphabet is both arbitrary and meaningful, both practical tool and carrier of history. It's perfectly ordinary, just 26 simple shapes, and also extraordinary, one of humanity's most important inventions. As sleep approaches, your mind might wander through the alphabet itself. A, B, C, D. Each letter a small familiar friend. E, F, G, H. The rhythm soothing, predictable. I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Like counting sheep, like a mantra. The alphabet is always there for you, ready to capture your thoughts, to help you understand the thoughts of others. It asks nothing of you except the small effort of learning it, and once learned, it serves you for life. It's democratic and universal, powerful and simple. In the dark behind your closed eyes, you might see letters floating, white on black, or black on white. They drift and flow, combining and recombining, endlessly generative. These 26 symbols, in their various combinations, have created every English text ever written. Everything you've ever read was built from this simple alphabet. This parsimony is restful. You don't need more than 26 letters. They're sufficient for every word you need, every thought you want to express. Sufficient for poetry and prose, for science and story, for the sacred and the mundane. The alphabet has been with you since childhood. It will be with you all your life. It's one of the first things you learned, and one of the last things you'll lose. Even people with severe memory impairments often retain their ability to read, as the alphabet is so deeply ingrained, so fundamental to how the brain processes language. When you wake tomorrow, letters will greet you. On your phone screen, on cereal boxes, on street signs. They'll guide you through your day so naturally, so invisibly, that you'll hardly notice them. But they'll be there, faithful and constant. The story of the alphabet is ultimately a story of connection, across time, across space, across minds. Every time you write, you're connected to ancient Phoenician traders. Every time you read, you're connected to medieval monks. The alphabet binds us to the past and to each other. So rest now, knowing that this simple system of 26 letters has served humanity well for thousands of years and will continue to serve for thousands more. Let the letters dissolve into sleep, their shapes fading into darkness, their sounds fading into silence. The alphabet has done its work for today. It has carried thoughts from one mind to another. It has preserved and communicated and connected. And now, like you, it can rest, waiting patiently for the next word to be written, the next word to be read. Sleep well. The alphabet will be there when you wake, ready to help you make sense of the world again. For now, let it all go. Let the letters drift away into peaceful, wordless rest. A, B, C, journey is complete. The story is told. Sleep now and dream. As you drift in that space between waking and sleeping, let us explore deeper into the alphabet's mysteries. There are still more stories to tell, more connections to discover, like finding hidden rooms in a familiar house. Think about the space between words. Did you know that ancient texts had no spaces between words at all? Theriantogathorlakethis, one continuous stream of letters. The practice of separating words with spaces developed gradually, becoming standard in Latin texts only around the 7th century CE. Irish monks are often credited with popularizing word spacing as they copied manuscripts. This simple innovation, a blank space between words, made reading dramatically easier. Your eyes can now jump from word to word, grasping meaning in chunks rather than having to parse letter by letter to find where one word ends and another begins. The space between words is as important as the letters themselves, a silence that gives shape to sound. Rest with this idea. Sometimes what we don't see is as important as what we do. The empty space on a page, the margins, the gaps between lines, all these create room for the mind to breathe, to rest between thoughts. Let us consider punctuation, those small marks that work alongside the alphabet. The period, the comma, the question mark, these weren't part of the original alphabet. Ancient texts often had no punctuation at all. Readers had to determine where sentences began and ended, where to pause, where emphasis belonged. The system of punctuation we use today developed slowly over centuries. The period comes from a Greek practice of using dots at different heights to indicate different lengths of pause. Commas evolved from a diagonal slash mark. The question mark may have originated from the Latin word quaestio, meaning question, with the letters Q and O stacked vertically and then stylized into the curved form we know. These marks are the alphabet's companions, its helpers. They add melody to the monotone of letters, telling us how to read, how to hear the text in our minds. Without punctuation, writing would be flat, ambiguous. With it, writing can capture the rhythms and intonations of speech. Now drift back further in time, to a remarkable discovery. In 1929, in northern Syria, archaeologists uncovered tablets from the ancient city of Ugarit, dating to around 1400 BCE. These tablets contained a cuneiform alphabet, wedge-shaped marks like Mesopotamian cuneiform, but functioning as an alphabet with about 30 letters rather than as a syllabary or logographic system. This Ugaritic script shows that the alphabetic principle was being explored in different places, in different ways. The Phoenician linear alphabet wasn't the only path forward from ancient writing systems. The human drive to simplify writing, to create more efficient systems, was arising independently across the ancient Near East. Yet it was the Phoenician system that ultimately prevailed, spreading and evolving into the Greek and then Roman alphabets. Sometimes history is shaped not by which solution is objectively best, but by which people have the most contact with others, whose traders sail the farthest, whose culture has the greatest reach. There's a gentle lesson here about influence and connection. Ideas spread through contact, through trade, through migration. The alphabet traveled on Phoenician ships, in merchants' account books, in treaties and letters between distant cities. Consider now the curious history of the letter W. It's called W in English, but in French it's called double V, and if you look at the uppercase form, W, you can see it really is two V's side by side. This letter was added to the Latin alphabet by medieval scribes who needed to represent a sound in Germanic languages that didn't exist in Latin. The letter W has one of the most unusual positions in our alphabet. It's not really ordered logically, it appears after V, almost as an afterthought, which historically it was. The alphabet we recite, from A to Z, preserves the Phoenician order from thousands of years ago, even as individual letters have been added or changed. This preservation of order is comforting in its way. When you teach a child the alphabet, you're teaching them the same sequence that children have learned for millennia. The order itself has meaning now, helps us organize information, alphabetical order in dictionaries, filing systems, indexes. Something that began as arbitrary has become essential structure. Let your mind wander to the letter X, one of the most mysterious. It appears infrequently in English, yet it holds a special fascination. X marks the spot on treasure maps. X is the unknown variable in algebra. X can represent a kiss in correspondence. In medieval times, the literate people signed documents with an X, which they then kissed to show sincerity, perhaps the origin of X for kisses. The letter X came to Latin from Greek, where it was called chi and represented a sound like the CH in Scottish lock. In English, X usually represents two sounds together, KS as in box, or sometimes GZ as an example. It's a letter that works overtime, doing the job of multiple sounds. Some letters are workhorses, appearing constantly. E is the most common letter in English text, appearing about 12% of the time. Others, like Q, Z, and X, are rare visitors, each appearing less than 1% of the time. Yet we need them all. Each letter has its purpose, its niche in the ecology of language. The frequency of letters has practical implications. Samuel Morse, when designing Morse code in the 1830s, assigned the shortest codes to the most common letters. E is just a single dot. T is a single dash. Less common letters got longer, more complex combinations. This efficiency meant messages could be transmitted faster. The same principle appears in other encoding systems. Cryptographers study letter frequency to break codes. Typographers adjust the spacing of common letter combinations, called kerning, to improve readability. Even in Scrabble, the point values reflect letter frequency. E is worth only 1 point because it's common, while Q and Z are worth 10 points each because they're rare. These patterns reveal deep structures in how we use the alphabet. Language isn't random. It has regularities, frequencies, patterns that emerge from millions of speakers over centuries of use. The alphabet both shapes and is shaped by these patterns. Now let your thoughts drift to alphabetical variations around the world. The Icelandic alphabet includes letters like thorn and F, representing the TH sounds that English spells with 2 letters. These letters existed in Old English too, but were gradually replaced by th after the Norman conquest, when French scribes unfamiliar with these letters chose a different way to represent the sounds. In this small detail, we see how alphabets are not fixed but fluid, responding to historical accidents, to the preferences of scribes, to contact with other languages. The alphabet you use today is the result of countless small decisions made by countless people, most of whose names are lost to history. The Spanish letter N with a tilde, originated as a scribal abbreviation. In medieval manuscripts, when a letter was doubled, scribes would sometimes write just one letter with a mark over it to save time and parchment. So NN might be written as N. For most doubled consonants, this abbreviation fell out of use, but in Spanish, the N survived and came to represent a distinct sound. This economy of effort, doing more with less, runs throughout the alphabet's history. Scribes developed shorthand marks, abbreviations, ligatures where two letters joined into one form. Many of these innovations were later discarded, but some survived and became permanent parts of writing systems. The ampersand symbol is a surviving ligature, the joining of the letters E and T to spell the Latin word et, meaning end. If you look closely at some ampersand designs, you can still see the E and T hidden in the curves. This symbol was once considered the 27th letter of the alphabet, appearing after Z in children's lessons. Let these details wash over you like gentle waves. Each fact is small, but together they paint a picture of the alphabet as a living, changing thing, adapted by human hands for human needs over thousands of years. Consider the development of italic type. In 1501, the Italian printer Aldus Manutius introduced a new typeface based on handwriting styles, slanted, flowing letters that were more compact than standard Roman type. Italics allowed more text to fit on a page, reducing the cost of books. Today, we use italics primarily for emphasis, for foreign words, for titles. But this modern usage came later. The original purpose was purely practical, economy of space. Yet even this practical consideration had aesthetic dimensions. Italic type was considered beautiful, elegant, refined. It captured the graceful movement of a skilled hand writing quickly. The relationship between handwriting and printed type remained close for centuries. Typefaces were often based on the hands of famous scribes. The printed book inherited conventions from manuscript culture, the shapes of letters, the layout of pages, even the terminology. We still call printed text copy, from the Latin copia, because printing was understood as copying what scribes had previously written by hand. This continuity between old and new, between hand and machine, is soothing. Change happened gradually enough that each generation could adapt. The alphabet didn't revolutionize overnight but evolved step by gentle step, always remaining recognizable, always remaining useful. Think now about the difference between serif and sans serif fonts. Serifs are the small decorative strokes at the ends of letters, the little feet on which letters stand. Times New Roman, Garamond, Georgia, these are serif fonts. Sans serif fonts, like Arial and Helvetica, lack these decorative elements, presenting letters as pure geometric forms. The origin of serifs is debated. Some scholars believe they originated in ancient Roman stone carving, where chisels naturally created flared ends to strokes. Others suggest they were added to make letters more distinctive and easier to read. Whatever their origin, serifs became standard in printed text for centuries. In the 20th century, modernist designers embraced sans serif fonts as cleaner, more rational, more suited to the industrial age. The Bauhaus movement in Germany championed geometric sans serif designs. Swiss typography elevated Helvetica to near-universal status. Today, both serif and sans serif fonts coexist, each chosen for different purposes. Serifs are often used for long texts in print, as many readers find them easier on the eyes for sustained reading. Sans serifs dominate digital screens, where their simpler forms render more clearly on pixels. This diversity is itself valuable. Not everyone reads the same way or has the same preferences. Having multiple ways to present the alphabet ensures that more people can access written information comfortably. As you settle deeper into rest, consider the Braille alphabet, developed by Louis Braille in 1824. Braille was a blind French student who created a tactile writing system using raised dots in a 6-dot cell. Each arrangement of raised dots represents a different letter or common word. Braille adapted the phonetic principle of the alphabet to a completely different sensory modality, touch instead of sight. This was revolutionary. Before Braille, blind people had limited access to literacy. Braille opened up reading and writing, education and employment, transforming what was possible for blind individuals. The existence of Braille reminds us that the alphabet is fundamentally about mapping language to symbols, and those symbols need not be visual. They can be tactile or even auditory, as in Morse code. The alphabet is a concept, a principle, that transcends any particular physical form. Let your breathing slow as we explore another dimension, the alphabet's relationship to technology. The typewriter, invented in various forms throughout the 19th century, arranged letters on a keyboard. The QWERTY layout, designed in the 1870s, became standard not because it was the most efficient but because it prevented the mechanical type bars from jamming. This is a curious historical accident. The keyboard layout you use today on your computer or phone was designed to solve a mechanical problem that no longer exists. Alternative layouts like Dvorak are arguably more efficient, but QWERTY became so entrenched that change became nearly impossible. Sometimes the alphabet is bound by historical choices that outlive their original justification. Yet there's also comfort in familiarity. Keeping QWERTY means that skills learned decades ago remain relevant. Muscle memory developed in youth still serves in old age. When computers emerged, they inherited the typewriter's keyboard layout. Early computer displays could show only uppercase letters, a limitation of the technology. Lowercase letters came later, as screens improved. For a brief period, we had returned to an ancient practice, all caps text with no distinction between majuscule and minuscule, before technology caught up with our needs. Digital text brought new possibilities. You can now change the font, size, and color of letters with a click. You can make text bold or italic, underlined or struck through. These affordances would have amazed medieval scribes, for whom changing even one letter meant scraping away ink and carefully rewriting. The ease of editing digital text has changed how we write. drafts and revisions that once required complete recopying can now be done instantly. This has made writing more iterative, more exploratory. The alphabet serves us even better now, more flexibly than ever before. Consider emoji, the colorful pictographic symbols that accompany text messages and social media posts. In some ways, emoji represent a return to pictographic writing, to the very beginnings of the alphabet's story. Instead of spelling out happy, you can send a smiling face. Instead of writing love, you can send a heart. Yet emoji don't replace the alphabet, they supplement it. Most messages combine letters and pictures, using both systems together. The alphabet remains the foundation, the infrastructure of language, while emoji add emotional color and nuance. This interplay between old and new, between the ancient alphabet and modern innovations, shows the alphabet's enduring relevance. It adapts to new contexts, welcomes new companions, but continues to serve its fundamental purpose, capturing human language in visible form. Think about ASCII art, where letters, numbers, and punctuation marks are arranged to create pictures. A smiley face made from punctuation marks, smiley face. This playful use of the alphabet shows its flexibility. Letters can be more than just carriers of phonetic meaning, they can be building blocks for visual art. The same letters that spell serious literature also spell jokes, that compose legal documents also compose love notes, that record history also record shopping lists. The alphabet is neutral, a tool that serves any purpose its user intends. Let your mind rest on the number of languages that use the Latin alphabet. English, of course, and other Germanic languages like German, Dutch, and Swedish. Romance languages, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian. Slavic languages like Polish and Czech. African languages like Swahili and Zulu. Southeast Asian languages like Vietnamese and Indonesian. Even the Polynesian languages of the Pacific use Latin letters. Each of these languages adapts the 26-letter alphabet to its own sound system, adding diacritical marks, combining letters in language-specific ways, sometimes adding extra letters. The basic alphabet is a foundation, and each language builds its own house upon it. This global spread has practical benefits. If you know the Latin alphabet, you have a starting point for literacy in dozens of languages. The letters may represent different sounds, but the fundamental skill of mapping symbol to sound transfers across languages. As sleep draws nearer, reflect on the alphabet's role and identity. Your handwriting is unique to you, as distinctive as your fingerprint. Forensic document examiners can identify individuals by their handwriting, by the particular way they form letters, the pressure they apply, the spacing they use. Even in typed text, your word choices, your sentence rhythms, your punctuation habits create a signature. The alphabet allows infinite expression within a finite system, and within that infinity, each person carves out their own style. Think of famous signatures, John Hancock's flamboyant loops, the elegant curves of Jane Austen's script, the angular precision of Leonardo da Vinci's mirror writing. Each signature is a performance of the alphabet, a way of saying this is me using the communal letters in an individual way. children learning to write go through recognizable stages. First, they draw letters as pictures, carefully copying each shape. Then the letters become more fluid, connected, automatic. Eventually, each person develops their own hand, their own relationship with the alphabet. This journey from imitation to individuality mirrors the alphabet's own history. It began as pictures, became standardized symbols, and then diversified again into countless typefaces and handwriting styles. Unity and diversity, convention and creativity, exist in balance. Let us consider one more technological adaptation, the URL or web address. These strings of letters, numbers, and symbols navigate the vast territory of the internet. The alphabet, which once guided readers through the pages of a book, now guides them through digital space. Domain names, email addresses, hashtags, all use the alphabet to create identity and location in the virtual world. The letter-based system of the internet reflects an assumption that literacy, alphabetic literacy, is universal enough to serve as the foundation for global digital communication. This speaks to how thoroughly the alphabet has embedded itself in modern consciousness. It's not just how we write, it's how we navigate, how we organize information, how we connect with each other across vast distances. The alphabet has always been about connection, connecting sound to symbol, thought to page, mind to mind. In the digital age, those connections have multiplied and accelerated, but the fundamental tool remains the same: 26 letters, endlessly versatile, endlessly productive. As you drift towards sleep, let all these facts and stories swirl together like leaves in a gentle wind. The alphabet is both simple and complex, both ancient and modern, both stable and ever-changing. It began with pictures scratched in clay and stone. It evolved through the needs of traders and scribes, through the aesthetics of calligraphers and typeface designers, through the inventions of printers and programmers. And it continues to evolve, to adapt, to serve. When you wake tomorrow, the alphabet will be there, faithful and familiar. It will help you navigate your day, express your thoughts, understand others. It asks nothing of you except the small gift of your attention, and in return, it gives you access to all of human knowledge and creativity. So rest now. Let the letters fade into darkness, their shapes dissolving, their sounds becoming silence. The alphabet has completed its journey through your mind tonight, planting seeds of wonder and connection. Sleep deeply, knowing that this simple, elegant system of symbols has served humanity well for thousands of years. From Phoenician ships to digital screens, from ancient scrolls to modern novels, the alphabet endures. Its story is humanity's story, of innovation and tradition, of creativity and convention, of the eternal human desire to capture thought, to preserve memory, to speak across time and space to others we'll never meet. The alphabet connects us all. And in sleep, as in waking, those connections persist, those letters wait, ready to serve again when needed. Rest now. The journey is complete. The alphabet's story has been told once more, and will be told again for as long as humans read and write. Good night. Sleep well. The letters will guard your dreams. As you rest in this quiet space, let us explore even further into the alphabet's hidden corners. There are still more stories waiting to be told, more connections waiting to be discovered, like finding constellations in a night sky you thought you knew completely. Consider the letter Y, sometimes called a semivowel because it can function as either consonant or vowel. And yes, it's a consonant. In myth, it's a vowel. This flexibility reflects Y's ancient origins. In Greek, upsilon was purely a vowel, but when Romans adopted it, they already had a similar sound covered by other letters, so Y took on new roles, adapting to Latin's needs. This adaptability runs through the entire alphabet. Letters are not rigid but flexible, taking on different sounds in different contexts, serving different purposes in different languages. The alphabet bends without breaking, adjusts without losing its essential character. Think about silent letters in English, the K in knife, the B in thumb, the GH in night. These letters seem useless now, but they represent sounds that were once pronounced. Old English speakers actually pronounced the K in knife and the GH in night. As spoken language evolved, these sounds dropped away, but spelling preserved them, creating a written fossil record of how English once sounded. There's something poignant about silent letters. They're like echoes of voices long silenced, like footprints of people who walked this linguistic path centuries ago. When you write night or na, you're honoring pronunciations your ancestors used, keeping alive ghosts of sound. Let your mind drift to the International Phonetic Alphabet, developed in the late 19th century by language scholars who needed a way to precisely represent the sounds of any human language. The IPA uses Latin letters as a base but adds dozens of special characters and diacritical marks to capture the full range of human speech sounds. The IPA reveals something important. The 26 letters of the English alphabet are not enough to represent all sounds even in English, let alone the hundreds of sounds used across all the world's languages. The standard alphabet is economical but imprecise. It uses the same letters for different sounds, relies on context and convention to resolve ambiguities. Yet this imprecision has advantages. A writing system that tried to capture every subtle variation in pronunciation would be impossibly complex. The alphabet strikes a balance between precision and practicality, capturing enough information to communicate while remaining simple enough for anyone to learn. Consider the letter Z, called Z in most English-speaking countries but Z in the United States. This small difference in pronunciation reflects deeper divergences between British and American English, divergences that began when American colonists were geographically separated from Britain and the two populations began evolving their language independently. The letter Z itself came to Latin from Greek zeta, which came from Phoenician zayin. Its shape has remained remarkably stable, a zigzag, lightning bolt form that's instantly recognizable. Some scholars suggest the Phoenician letter was originally a pictograph of a weapon, perhaps a sword or dagger, though this is uncertain. What is certain is that Z has always been somewhat marginal in English. It appears at the end of the alphabet. It's used infrequently, it sometimes feels foreign or exotic. Words with Z often have Greek origins, zone, zero, zenith, or come from other languages. Yet Z has its own special quality, a sharpness, a zip and zest that makes it memorable. As you sink deeper into relaxation, think about ligatures in typography. Certain letter combinations are so common that designers create special joined forms for them. The most common ligature in English is phi. In many typefaces, the F and I connect, with the dot of the I replaced by the top of the F. There are also ligatures for FL, FF, FFI, and FFL. These ligatures solve practical problems. In metal type, the overhang of lowercase f could clash with the dot of I, so joining them prevented collision. But ligatures also add beauty, creating flowing connections between letters that make text more pleasant to read. In Arabic script, nearly all letters connect to their neighbors, creating a flowing, calligraphic effect. Each letter has different forms depending on whether it appears at the beginning, middle, or end of a word, or stands alone. This is very different from the Latin alphabet, where each letter maintains its independent form regardless of context. This difference reflects different aesthetic values in different writing technologies. Arabic calligraphy developed with reed pens on paper, where flowing connections were natural. Latin letters were carved in stone, stamped in metal, where distinct separate forms made more sense. Yet both systems serve the same fundamental purpose, capturing language in visible form. The alphabet is not just one thing but a principle that can be expressed in many ways, adapting to different languages, scripts, and aesthetic traditions. Let your thoughts drift to children's alphabet books, with their familiar formula: A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat. This teaching method connects letters to concrete objects, helping children form memory associations. It echoes the ancient origins of the alphabet, when letters were pictures of objects. Each generation learns the alphabet anew, and each child's journey recapitulates thousands of years of human history. From pictures to symbols, from memorization to fluency, from careful copying to automatic writing, the path is the same for each of us. There's comfort in this repetition, this renewal. The alphabet doesn't age or become obsolete. Each time a child learns it, the alphabet is reborn, fresh and vital. The letters you learned in childhood are the same letters your grandchildren will learn, and their grandchildren after them. Consider the history of alphabetical order itself. Why does A come before B, B before C? The order is ancient, going back to the Phoenician alphabet and perhaps earlier. But what determined the original sequence is lost to time. It may have been arbitrary, or there may have been a logic we no longer understand. Yet this arbitrary sequence has become deeply meaningful. Alphabetical order is how we organize dictionaries, encyclopedias, phone books, filing systems. It's a universal organizing principle, used across cultures and languages. Something that began as random has become essential structure. When you alphabetize a list, you're performing a ritual thousands of years old, using a sequence established by ancient Phoenicians for purposes we can only guess at. The past speaks through our everyday actions in ways we rarely notice. Think now about monospaced fonts, where every letter takes up the same width. In most fonts, an I is narrow and an M is wide, but in monospaced fonts like Courier, they occupy the same horizontal space. This was necessary for typewriters, where each keystroke moved the carriage the same distance. Monospaced fonts look mechanical, artificial, because they violate the natural proportions of letters. Yet they served an important purpose in the era of typewriters and early computer terminals. Today, they're mainly used for computer code, where precise alignment of characters is important. This specialization shows how the alphabet continues to evolve new forms for new purposes. There's no single correct way to draw letters. Each context, each technology, each purpose may call for different solutions. As your breathing slows and deepens, consider the alphabets that have been lost to history. The Etruscan alphabet, which gave us the Roman alphabet, is only partially understood because we don't fully comprehend the Etruscan language. We can read the letters but not always understand what they mean. There were other ancient Italian alphabets too: Oscan, Umbrian, Venetic, each a variant of the alphabetic principle, each adapted to a different language. Most of these were eventually supplanted by Latin, their distinctive characters forgotten, surviving only in fragmentary inscriptions. The alphabet's history is not just a story of survival and spread but also of loss and forgetting. For every successful writing system, there are dozens that fell into disuse, replaced by more dominant systems or abandoned when the cultures that used them disappeared. Yet something of these lost alphabets survives in the one we use today. Each contributed, directly or indirectly, to the evolution of the Latin alphabet. They were stepping stones on a long path, and though the stones are now covered with moss and barely visible, they were essential to the journey. Let your mind wander to the development of all caps writing in modern contexts. Writing in all capitals is considered shouting in digital communication. This convention emerged from early internet culture and has become a widely understood social signal. Interesting, isn't it? The alphabet gains new social meanings, new contexts of use. The same letters that medieval monks carefully illuminated now flash across phone screens with new kinds of significance. The alphabet absorbs and expresses the culture that uses it. Consider the alphabetic nature of most URLs and email addresses. The domain name system could have been designed differently, using numbers or symbols, but letters were chosen because they're memorable and meaningful. You can remember example.com more easily than an IP address like 192.168.1.1 because letters carry semantic weight. This shows the alphabet's cognitive advantages. Letters connect to language, to meaning, to memory in ways that arbitrary symbols don't. The alphabet isn't just a notation system. It's woven into how we think and remember. Think about acronyms and initialisms: FBI, NASA, DVD, CEO. These compress longer phrases into sequences of initial letters, creating new words from the building blocks of the alphabet. Some acronyms become words in their own right: radar from radio detection and ranging, scuba from self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. The alphabet enables this kind of compression and creativity. You can take the first letters of words and create new combinations, new meanings. This flexibility makes the alphabet endlessly productive, constantly generating new uses and forms. As you rest deeper, think about the crossword puzzle, invented in 1913 by Arthur Wynne. Crossword puzzles are a celebration of the alphabet's intersecting nature, where words share letters, where horizontal and vertical sequences interlock. They're word games that could only exist with an alphabetic writing system. The same is true of anagrams, where letters are rearranged to form new words. Listen becomes silent, astronomer becomes moon starer. These playful manipulations reveal that words are not indivisible units but combinations of letters that can be recombined. This playfulness is itself significant. The alphabet invites creativity, invites games and puzzles and wordplay. It's serious and practical, yes, but also joyful and generative. Consider the alphabet in music. Musical notation uses letters A through G to name notes. This alphabetic naming system helps musicians communicate about pitch, provides a framework for understanding harmony and melody. The alphabet serves even in realms that seem far from written language. Letter grades, A, B, C, D, F, use the alphabet to communicate evaluation. The highest grade is A, the beginning of the alphabet, symbolizing excellence. Lower grades progress through the alphabet, until we skip E entirely and reach F for failure. Even in grading, the alphabet provides structure and meaning. These extensions of the alphabet beyond writing show its versatility. The alphabet is a general-purpose system of symbols that can be adapted to label, to organize, to evaluate, to play. It's more than just writing, it's a fundamental way of creating order and meaning. Let your thoughts drift to alphabetic poetry, where the first letter of each line progresses through the alphabet. This form, sometimes called an abecedarius, has ancient roots. Some Hebrew psalms are acrostic poems where each verse begins with the next letter of the Hebrew alphabet. This poetic form makes the alphabet itself structural, not just a tool for writing but a framework for composition. The alphabet shapes the poem, determines its length, provides its pattern. Form and content intertwine. Think about the alphabet soup, where pasta is shaped like letters. Children play with their food, spelling words before eating them. The alphabet becomes tangible, edible, playful. This whimsical manifestation shows how deeply the alphabet has penetrated culture. It appears in unexpected places, takes unexpected forms. The alphabet appears on children's blocks, on refrigerator magnets, on decorative wall hangings. Letters become design elements, aesthetic objects. A beautifully crafted letter A can be art in its own right, independent of any word it might spell. This aesthetic dimension has always been present. Medieval illuminated manuscripts treated letters as art. Modern typography continues this tradition, creating letter forms that are both functional and beautiful. The alphabet serves dual purposes: utility and aesthetics, communication and decoration. As sleep draws ever nearer, consider how the alphabet enables translation. With a phonetic writing system, it's possible to transliterate words from one language to another, representing foreign sounds with familiar letters. Japanese words can be written in Roman letters, Romaji. Arabic can be transliterated. Chinese can use pinyin. This doesn't capture everything about the original language, but it provides access, a bridge between different writing systems. The alphabet becomes a common ground, a meeting place for different linguistic traditions. Think about the children's song, the alphabet song, sung to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. This melody has helped millions of children memorize the alphabetic sequence. Music and language combine, making learning easier and more joyful. The fact that the alphabet can be sung reveals something important. It has rhythm, pattern, musicality. The sequence of letter names creates its own melody, its own mnemonic structure. Learning the alphabet is not just intellectual but also embodied, musical, performative. Let your mind rest on alphabetic puns and visual wordplay. The word swims is the same upside down. The word decode uses only letters that are symmetrical in many fonts. Artists and designers play with the visual properties of letters, creating anagrams and typographic illusions. This playfulness shows that letters are not just abstract symbols but shapes with visual properties. The way letters look matters, not just what they represent. Form and function are inseparable. Consider how alphabetic literacy has been tied to power throughout history. Those who could read and write had access to knowledge, to sacred texts, to legal codes. Literacy was often restricted to elites, priests, scribes, nobility. The spread of alphabetic literacy was also a democratization of knowledge, a leveling of hierarchies. Universal education, teaching every child to read and write, is a relatively recent phenomenon in human history. For most of the alphabet's long existence, most people were illiterate. The alphabet existed but was not accessible to all. Today, in most of the world, alphabetic literacy is considered a basic human right. The alphabet has gone from being the property of the few to being the inheritance of all. This transformation is one of the great achievements of modern civilization. As you drift in the borderland of sleep, think about how the alphabet will continue to evolve. New technologies, new languages, new needs will shape it in ways we can't yet predict. Perhaps new letters will be added. Perhaps new uses will emerge. Perhaps entirely new forms of writing will develop. Yet the fundamental principle, representing speech sounds with symbols, will likely remain. The alphabetic insight, discovered thousands of years ago, is too elegant, too efficient to be discarded. It will adapt and change, but it will endure. The alphabet you know is both ancient and modern, both stable and evolving. It connects you to the past and will carry you into the future. It's one of humanity's most precious inventions, and it belongs to you, available whenever you need to capture thought, to communicate, to remember. Let the letters now dissolve completely into the darkness behind your closed eyes. They've done their work, told their stories, revealed their secrets. The alphabet has guided you through this long night of exploration, and now it releases you into sleep. Rest deeply, knowing that the alphabet will be there when you wake. It will help you navigate another day, express more thoughts, make more connections. For now, though, it asks nothing of you. The letters fade to silence, to emptiness, to the peaceful void of deep sleep. the alphabet's journey through your mind is complete. From ancient Phoenician ships to medieval scriptoriums to digital screens, you've traveled through thousands of years. You've seen how pictures became letters, how letters became words, how words built civilizations. And now, having reached the end of this journey, you can rest. The alphabet rests with you, patient and eternal, waiting for the next word to be written, the next word to be read, the next mind to wake and take up the ancient task of making meaning from marks on a surface. Sleep now. Dream of letters if you will, or dream of nothing at all. The alphabet guards your rest, stands watch through the night, ready to serve again when morning comes. The story is told. The letters are still. The journey ends in silence. Good night. Sleep peacefully. The alphabet will remember everything you've forgotten, preserve everything you've released, and be ready, always ready, when you need it again. And so, we reach the end of our journey through the alphabet's long history. From ancient clay tablets to glowing screens, from Phoenician ships to your fingertips, we've traveled together through thousands of years. Think, if you can, about tomorrow morning. When you wake, letters will greet you. Perhaps on your phone screen, showing you the time. Perhaps on a book spine across the room. Perhaps in your own thoughts, as you mentally spell out the day ahead. The alphabet will be there, as it always has been, as it always will be. These 26 letters, A through Z, have served you your entire life. They helped you learn to read as a child. They've carried messages from loved ones. They've preserved recipes and memories, instructions and stories. They've been your companions through every written word you've ever encountered. And tonight, they've been your guides into rest. The alphabet has one more gift to give you, the gift of completion, of story's end, of journey's conclusion. Everything has been said that needed saying. Every letter has been honored. Every connection has been made. Let yourself feel gratitude, if you're able, for this simple, elegant system. 26 shapes, learned once in childhood, serving you forever. What other tool in your life has been so reliable, so constant, so quietly essential? The monks who copied manuscripts by candlelight, they knew this gratitude. Each letter they formed was an act of devotion, a preservation of knowledge, a gift to future readers. They understood that letters are more than marks on parchment. They're bridges across time. And you are connected to those monks, to those ancient scribes, to everyone who has ever read or written. The alphabet binds all literate humans across history into one vast, invisible community. When you read, you're never truly alone. You're in conversation with every author who ever lived, every person who ever set down their thoughts in letters. This is why the alphabet is so deeply calming. It represents connection, continuity, the enduring human need to communicate and be understood. In a chaotic world, the alphabet provides order. In uncertain times, it provides stability. In moments of isolation, it provides connection. As you drift now, whether into deeper sleep or toward waking, carry with you this sense of connection. You are part of something larger than yourself, something that stretches back thousands of years and will extend thousands more into the future. The letters you learned as a child will be learned by children not yet born. The same shapes, the same sounds, the same magical mapping of speech to symbol. The alphabet renews itself eternally, generation after generation, never aging, never dying. Feel your breathing now, slow and steady. In and out, like the tide, like the turning of pages, like the rhythm of letters marching across a page. Your body knows how to rest. The alphabet has helped bring you to this place of deep relaxation, and now it releases you fully. There's nothing more you need to hear. Nothing more you need to understand. The story is complete. The circle is closed. From the first scratches in ancient clay to this very moment, the alphabet's journey has been told. And your journey through this night has been told too. Whether you've traveled the full 7 hours or drifted away much earlier, you've given yourself the gift of rest, of story, of gentle learning without effort or strain. The alphabet asks nothing more of you now. It returns to the background of your life, where it will serve you tomorrow and the next day and all the days after, quietly faithful, patiently waiting whenever you need to read or write or communicate. Let the letters fade now from your mind's eye. Let them dissolve like morning mist, like breath on glass, like footprints in sand at the edge of the tide. They'll be there when you need them, but for now, they release you. Release yourself from this story. Release yourself from effort and attention. You've journeyed far tonight, across continents and centuries, through the minds of scribes and scholars, through the evolution of human communication itself. And now, at journey's end, you can simply be. Simply rest. Simply exist in this moment of pure relaxation, free from all demands, all tasks, all responsibilities. The alphabet has been your companion tonight, but it's also been your teacher, showing you that even the most ordinary things contain extraordinary depth. That what you take for granted is often miraculous. That the familiar can become fascinating when you truly pay attention. But you don't need to pay attention anymore. Attention can rest. The mind can rest. Even consciousness itself can rest, dissolving into the deep, dreamless peace of true sleep. If dreams come, perhaps you'll dream of letters dancing, rearranging themselves into new meanings. Or perhaps you'll dream of ancient scribes, carefully forming each character. Or perhaps you'll dream of nothing at all, pure rest, pure peace. All dreams are welcome. All states of consciousness are perfect. Sleep, or wake, or hover between, whatever serves you best in this moment is exactly right. The alphabet has no preference. It serves the sleeping and the waking equally. It preserves the dreams of the night and the thoughts of the day with the same patient fidelity. So rest now, completely and fully. The journey is over. The story is told. The alphabet has shared its secrets and can now return to comfortable silence. When morning comes, you'll wake refreshed, perhaps remembering fragments of what you heard, perhaps remembering nothing at all. The alphabet will be there regardless, ready to help you navigate another day. But morning is far away. For now, there is only night, only rest, only the gentle darkness behind your closed eyes and the soft rhythm of your breathing. The last letter has been written. The last word has been spoken. The alphabet bows and steps back, returning to its quiet place in the background of the world. And you can release everything now. Release this story. Release these thoughts. Release even the idea of the alphabet itself. Simply rest. Simply be. Simply sleep. The letters will keep watch. The alphabet will remember. And you are free to drift away completely into the deepest, most restorative sleep. Thank you for journeying through the alphabet's history tonight. Thank you for giving yourself this time to rest, to learn, to simply be present with the gentle unfolding of this ancient story. Sleep well. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. The alphabet's work is done. And so is yours. Good night.